You walk through your front door, atoms in the door push against atoms in your hand, except they do not. Your hand never touches the door. Right now, you're floating above your chair by an unfathomably small distance. Every object you think you have ever touched in your life, you have not. The electrons in your skin repel the electrons in everything around you. The quantum force that keeps you from falling through the floor keeps every solid thing solid. This is not philosophy. This is physics. World documented in Nature Materials, published September 2024 by Freeman Dyson's original 1967 proof. The Pauli exclusion principle states no two electrons can occupy the same quantum state. When you sit in that chair, the electron clouds in your body overlap with electron clouds in the chair but never touch. Wolfgang Pauli formulated this in 1925. Philip Moriarty, professor of physics at University of Nottingham, confirmed in his April 2025 interview that contact exists at atomic level, but only as the point where van der Waals' attractive force balances Pauli repulsion. But that is not touch the way you understand it. The analogy breaks down. Electrons spread into probability clouds. When atoms get close, their electrons must occupy higher energy states to maintain antisymmetry. Elliott Lieb and Walter Thirring proved in 1975 that ordinary matter would collapse without this principle. The explosion happens at nanometer scale. Your atoms hover. Every handshake, every kiss, every embrace. An infinitesimal gap enforced by quantum law. You have never truly touched another person in your entire life. It is the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you are hearing this from. Also, this script is researched and factual using sources from Physics World Breakthrough of the Year, December 17, 2025, Quantum Magazine Year in Physics, December 17, 2025, Nature Materials, September 2024, showing protein quantum bits inside living cells produced with atomic precision, just 3 nanometers in diameter by Peter Moore and David Aushalom at University of Chicago reported 1 week ago, and NPJ microgravity, May 10, 2017, proving cosmic ray DNA damage in astronaut blood cells. Now back to the information. You contain between 140 and 180 grams of potassium. That makes roughly 4,400 disintegrations per second coursing through you as you read this. The isotope is potassium-40. It has a half-life of 1.248 billion years. The atoms were forged in a supernova before Earth formed 4.6 billion years ago. Back then, potassium-40 made up 0.15% of all potassium. Today, after continuous decay, it is 0.0117%. A 70 kilogram adult body generates between 4,000 and 5,000 radioactive decays every second from potassium-40 alone. This was measured in whole body counters built after World War II to monitor nuclear workers. Scientists kept detecting a persistent background peak at 1.460 mega electron volts no matter who entered the scanner. In 1949, American biophysicist Paul Ebersold at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Tennessee, used radioactive sodium-24 and phosphorus-32 tracers administered to humans and calculated atoms in your body replace at an amazingly rapid rate. The Physiological Society published April 4, 2023 that potassium-40 is the single largest naturally occurring internal radiation source in humans, responsible for approximately 5% of annual natural background radiation in the UK, which is roughly 2.5 millisieverts. Every banana you eat contains about 450 milligrams of potassium. That banana holds roughly 15 becquerels of radioactive decay. A typical banana delivers 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. The term banana equivalent dose appeared on the RadSafe nuclear safety mailing list in 1995, when Gary Mansfield of Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory found it very useful in explaining infinitesimal doses. Wikipedia updated December 18, 2025 shows 1 banana equivalent dose equals roughly 1% of average daily radiation exposure, which is 100 banana equivalent doses. A chest CT scan delivers 70,000 banana equivalent doses. An acute lethal radiation dose equals 35 million banana equivalent doses. But your body maintains homeostatic control of potassium. The kidneys expel excess potassium within hours, so eating a banana does not increase your lifetime radiation burden. The 4,000 to 5,000 decays per second stay constant because you are always excreting potassium and consuming it through diet. Most of those decays, 89.3%, produce calcium-40 through beta minus decay, releasing electrons with maximum energy, 1.31 mega electron volts, and antineutrinos. 10.7% decayed argon-40 through electron capture, emitting 1.46 mega electron volts gamma rays. The argon-40 in Earth's atmosphere, 99.6% of all atmospheric argon came from potassium-40. Decay over billions of years. That is why geologists use potassium-argon dating to determine rock ages. Potassium-40 inside you generates more radiation than a truck full of bananas, which actually sets off radiation portal monitors at U.S. ports, checking for smuggled nuclear material. McGill University Office for Science and Society, published December 30, 2018, calculated it would take 1 billion bananas consumed at one sitting to deliver a lethal dose. You are a walking radioactive source at roughly 4.4 kilobecquerels. Every human you have ever stood near is also emitting thousands of decays per second. This has been true since the supernova that seeded our solar system with potassium-40. Classical physics predicts zero fusion reactions. The electromagnetic repulsion between two protons requires temperatures of 10 billion Kelvin to overcome the Coulomb barrier. Our sun never reaches that temperature. And yet the sun shines. 400 million tons of hydrogen fuse into helium every second in the core. The secret is quantum tunneling discovered by George Gamow in 1928. At the quantum level, protons behave as probability waves, not point particles. Their wave functions extend beyond their classical boundaries. When two protons approach each other in the sun at 4 million Kelvin, their quantum wave functions overlap. There is a tiny probability the protons can tunnel through the Coulomb barrier and fuse. That probability is roughly 1 in 10 to the 28th power for each proton-proton interaction. The same odds as winning the Powerball lottery 3 times in a row. But the sun contains 10 to the 56 protons. The sheer number compensates for the minuscule probability. Every second, roughly 1.8 times 10 to the 38 protons successfully tunnel and fuse in the solar core. This first step of the proton-proton chain requires both quantum tunneling and the weak nuclear force. When two protons tunnel together, they briefly form helium-2, a diproton. Almost always within 10 to the minus 23 seconds, the diproton splits back into two protons. But 1 in 10 to the 28th times one proton converts to a neutron through weak interaction. An up quark transforms into a down quark, emitting a positron, an electron neutrino. This creates deuterium hydrogen, 2 1 proton 1 neutron bound together. The mean reaction time for a given proton to successfully fuse with another proton in the sun is 14 billion years. That equals the current age of the universe. Yet there are so many protons that continuous fusion sustains the sun. Published January 25, 2025 in Big Think by Ethan Siegel explains, if it were not for quantum tunneling, the overwhelming majority of stars produced in the universe would never ignite. Only 5% of stars get as hot as our sun in their cores. Lower mass stars with cooler cores still shine because quantum tunneling permits fusion at temperatures as low as 3 million Kelvin in the smallest red dwarfs. The sun will burn for 10 billion years total. It has already burned for 4.6 billion years. When all hydrogen in the core converts to helium, the sun will expand into a red giant. That expansion happens because quantum tunneling continues in a shell around the helium core. Without quantum tunneling, you would not exist. Earth would be a frozen rock orbiting a dark ball of hydrogen. Every photon of sunlight that warms your skin, every plant that photosynthesizes every breath of oxygen in the atmosphere traces back to protons quantum tunneling through a barrier they classically cannot cross. This is documented in PMC publication Quantum Tunneling, To the Origin and Evolution of Life, showing reaction cross-sections and tunneling probabilities. The PP chain reaction tunneling probability at solar core conditions is 10 to the negative 20th power. Solar core contains 10 to the 48 hydrogen nuclei per cubic meter. At 15 million Kelvin, the thermal velocity of protons is roughly 430 kilometers per second. The number of collisions per second in 1 cubic meter of solar core is 10 to the 38. Multiply collision rate by tunneling probability and you get sustained fusion. Evansism, published July 8, 2025, explains the Sommerfeld factor, or Gamow factor, quantifies fusion probability at given temperature. George Gamow applied quantum mechanics in the 1920s, discovering significant probability for fusion through tunneling. This finding allowed understanding of how fusion occurs at stellar temperatures. The sun fuses 620 million tons of hydrogen per second. Of that, 4 million tons converts to energy via Einstein's equation E equals mc squared. Over 4.6 billion years, the sun has lost approximately the mass of Saturn to fusion. The energy released is 3.8 times 10 to the 26th watts. That power reaches Earth as 1,361 watts per square meter at the top of the atmosphere. Without quantum tunneling, none of this happens. Your bone marrow produces 100 million new red blood cells every minute. You have roughly 30 trillion red blood cells. That entire population turns over every 4 months. Skin cells in the epidermis replace every 2 to 4 weeks. You shed approximately 500 million skin cells daily. The lining of your stomach renews every 2 to 9 days because digestive acid constantly assaults it. Intestinal epithelial cells replace every 3 to 5 days. And liver cells regenerate every 300 to 500 days. The liver can regrow to full size even if 70% is removed. Taste buds replace every 10 days. Hair follicles produce new hair for about 6 years in women, 3 years in men before falling out. Researchers at Karolinska Institute in Sweden used carbon-14, dating to measure cell ages. Between 1955 and 1963, above-ground nuclear weapons tests released massive amounts of carbon-14 into the atmosphere. The Limited Test Ban Treaty, signed in 1963, stopped atmospheric testing. Carbon-14 levels spiked, then declined. This created a timestamp in the atmosphere. Plants absorb carbon-14. Humans and animals eat plants. Carbon-14 incorporates into DNA when cells divide. DNA does not change after the cell is born. By measuring carbon-14 levels in tissue, scientists determined when cells were created. Published July 15, 2005 in Cell by Jonas Freisen's team showed the average age of all cells in the human body is 7 to 10 years. But this masks huge variation. Colon cells live 5 days. Some fat cells live 10 years. Skeletal bones remodel completely every 10 years through continuous breaking down and rebuilding. Heart muscle cells. The cardiomyocytes replace at a very low rate, only 40% exchange throughout an entire human lifetime. Most neurons in the cerebral cortex never replace. They were born when you were an embryo and persist until death. The same is true for cells in the lens of your eye. Those cells form during embryonic development and remain your whole life. Cells in the hippocampus. The memory region regenerate at 1.75% per year, documented in 2013 study in Cell, but most of your brain cells stay with you for life. This explains why brain injuries can cause permanent damage. Those neurons will not regrow. Even though cells replace at different rates, the atoms inside the cells cycle faster. Scientists in the 1940s at Oak Ridge used radioactive isotope tracers to track atomic turnover. Paul Ebersold stated in 1949 that atoms in your body replace at amazingly rapid rate, such that in another year, new atoms have cycled through. A claim circulated that 100% turnover of atoms occurs at least every 5 years. This comes from studies showing atoms entering and leaving the body through respiration, digestion, and excretion. However, some atoms remain longer. Atoms in the DNA of non-dividing neurons stay for your lifetime because those cells never replicate. Atoms in tooth enamel can persist for decades. But for cells that do divide and for freely circulating molecules, atoms exchange continuously. Proteins break down into amino acids. Amino acids break down into individual atoms. New atoms from food and air rebuild proteins. Published April 6, 2025 in Weizmann. Institute Wonder shows roughly 330 billion cells die and the same number born every day. Red and white blood cells account for 90% of daily turnover by number. In terms of mass, you create roughly 100 grams of new cells per day. Roughly every 80 days, you produce a number of cells equal to your total cell count. In terms of mass, you regenerate your body weight and new cells every year and a half, not 7 years. The 7-year figure is an average across all cell types, not a literal replacement schedule. Each cell type has its own timeline. Gut cells days, blood cells months, bones years, brain cells never. But the underlying atomic ingredients constantly flow through you. Oxygen atoms you inhale integrate into water molecules and carbon dioxide. Carbon atoms from food build into fats, proteins, and DNA. Nitrogen from amino acids cycles into waste. Even the calcium in your bones continuously deposits and resorbs. Your skeleton is not a static structure, but a dynamic system remodeling throughout life. Every atom of calcium in your bones right now will eventually leave and new calcium will take its place. Documented in How Stuff Works, September 22, 2022, and Live Science, July 22, 2022. So while some cells persist, your body is a river of atoms flowing through a relatively stable pattern. The pattern is you. The atoms are temporary passengers. Atoms are 99.999999996% empty space. That is 14 nines. If an atom were scaled to the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a marble in the center. Electrons orbit somewhere in the outer stands. The space between is nothing, or is it? This claim gets repeated everywhere, but it is fundamentally wrong. Atoms are not mostly empty. There is no such thing as purely empty space. Even if you removed every particle and field from a volume of space, new particles would still flash into existence due to vacuum energy. Quantum field theory shows the vacuum seethes with virtual particles constantly popping in and out of existence. These are not real particles, but fluctuations in quantum fields. The energy is real. Vacuum energy permeates all of space. Even the deepest cosmic voids contain this irreducible energy. But ignore that for now. Focus on atoms themselves. The claim about empty atoms assumes electrons are tiny balls orbiting the nucleus like planets around a star. The Bohr model from 1913 painted this picture. But the Bohr model was proven wrong almost a century ago. Electrons are not particles, they are waves. When bound in atoms, electrons behave as three-dimensional probability density waves. These waves spread out to fill the entire atom. Electrons do not orbit. They exist as cloud-like distributions called orbitals. The shape of these orbitals underlies all chemistry. An electron in a hydrogen atom spreads throughout the entire volume of the atom. The probability of finding the electron peaks at the Bohr radius roughly 0.053 nanometers from the nucleus, but the electron exists at all radii. There is about a 1 in 3 chance you find it between the nucleus and the Bohr radius. It spends a third of its time there. The electron's wave function extends to infinity, though it becomes negligibly thin far from the atom. Atoms do not have hard edges. The electron cloud fades gradually. There is no definite boundary. When two atoms approach, their electron clouds overlap. The electrons do not collide. They interfere. The overlapping probability waves create new combined wave functions. Electrons and atoms even overlap with the nucleus. This electron nucleus overlap makes possible electron capture, where a proton in the nucleus reacts with an electron and converts to a neutron. If atoms were mostly empty space, electron capture could not occur. Atoms are completely filled with electron probability clouds. This is documented in West Texas or in A&M University Physics Q&A, explaining that atoms are not mostly empty because electrons fill all space. The misconception comes from focusing on mass. The nucleus contains 99.95% of an atom's mass. The electron contains 0.05% or less. But mass is not volume. The nucleus is incredibly dense. Protons and neutrons pack together tightly. The electron cloud is much less dense but fills the entire atomic volume. The atom is filled, just not with much mass. Think of fog. Fog fills a valley, but fog has very low density. You can see through it. You can walk through it. Yet the fog occupies the space. Atoms are like that. Electron clouds are thin but present everywhere. Moreover, even the empty space inside an atom is not empty. Quantum fields permeate all space. The Higgs field exists at every point in the universe. It cannot be removed. The electromagnetic field exists everywhere. Even with zero photons, the field has vacuum fluctuations. Virtual photons appear and vanish. The Pauli exclusion principle mentioned earlier creates an effective repulsion. When two atoms approach, their electron clouds resist overlapping. This is not because of empty space. It is because electrons cannot occupy the same quantum state. The overlapping wave functions force some electrons into higher energy states. That costs energy. The energy increase manifests as a repulsive force. This is why solid objects are solid. Not because atoms are mostly empty, but because atoms are filled with quantum fields and electron clouds that resist compression. Documented in physics forums from May 2017, and homework study showing the figure often given is 99.999999996% empty. But this is misleading. If you tried to remove the empty space and compress atoms, they would resist. You cannot shrink atoms by removing empty space, because there is no empty space to remove. The concept of empty space does not apply at the quantum level. Space itself is not a thing. It is geometry. Published in quantum field theory literature and reiterated in multiple physics education sources, from 2023 to 2025, the atom is filled with electron fields. Claiming atoms are empty is like claiming a cloud is empty because it contains no solid matter. The cloud is made of water vapor. It fills its volume. Atoms are made of quantum fields. They fill their volume. Both are diffuse. Both are real. Neither is empty. Muons are charged particles with mass between electrons and protons. They carry an average energy of 4 giga-electron-volts. At sea level, roughly 1 muon per square centimeter per minute passes through your body. That is 10,000 muons per square meter per minute. Right now, dozens of muons are piercing through you. Muons are created when cosmic ray protons strike the upper atmosphere, producing pions. Pions decay in roughly 26 nanoseconds. At 99.98%, the speed of light time dilation allows pions created at 20 kilometers altitude to reach the surface before decaying. Most pions decay into muons. Muons themselves have a half-life of 2.2 microseconds, but traveling near light speed, they experience time dilation. What is 2 microseconds in the muon's frame becomes thousands of microseconds in our frame. This lets muons reach sea level. Published in PMC January 1923, Muon's mutations in planetary shielding proposes muon-based mutagenesis as a significant evolutionary factor. Muons ionize atoms as they pass through matter. When a muon passes through a DNA molecule, it can knock electrons off atoms, creating ions. These ions can break chemical bonds. DNA is particularly vulnerable because it is a long, fragile molecule. A single muon track through a cell nucleus can create enough ionization to damage DNA. The paper argues that muon-induced DNA damage is not random. Muons preferentially affect certain DNA sequences. Mutation-prone DNA experiences more damage. This could explain why some genes mutate faster than others. The hypothesis is that cosmic rays have shaped evolution on Earth. Every organism on the planet is constantly bombarded by muons. The mutation rate from muons is small but persistent. Over billions of years, this steady mutagenic pressure drives evolution. Life on Earth evolved under a rain of cosmic rays. Augusto Gonzalez at Institute of Cybernetics Mathematics and Physics in Havana, Cuba, published in Arxiv June 26, 2014, calculated the mutagenic rate from background neutron radiation. When cosmic rays hit the atmosphere, they also produce neutrons. High-energy neutrons reach the surface. A neutron entering a water sample containing bacteria arrives roughly once every 125 seconds. Each neutron generates about 300 ions over a track length of 100 nanometers. Bacteria touched by this ion shower can be destroyed or suffer permanent DNA damage inherited by descendants. Gonzalez calculated this rate matches the frequency of deleterious mutations measured in long-term evolution experiments by Richard Lenski at Michigan State University. Lenski's experiments have tracked E. coli bacteria for over 30 years and 70,000 generations. The mutation rate in these bacteria matches predictions from cosmic ray neutron bombardment. This suggests cosmic rays are a primary source of spontaneous mutations, published August 22, 2024 in MIT Technology Review. For humans, the situation is similar. Every cell in your body is exposed to cosmic rays. Most mutations are harmless or repaired by DNA repair mechanisms, but some slip through. Mutations accumulate over a lifetime. Some contribute to cancer. Researchers from NASA studying astronauts found cosmic ray exposure causes measurable DNA damage. Twin astronauts Mark and Scott Kelly provided a unique experiment. Scott spent nearly a year on the International Space Station. Mark stayed on Earth as control. When Scott returned, scientists compared their DNA. Scott's telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes, had lengthened in space but rapidly shortened after return. Telomere length associates with aging and cellular health. The study published in Nature found Scott experienced increased DNA damage, chromosome aberrations, and changes in gene expression. Astronauts in low Earth orbit receive radiation doses about 300 to 400 times higher than at sea level. The dose rate inside ISS is roughly 0.3 to 0.4 millisieverts per day. Over 6 months, that accumulates to 55 to 73 millisieverts. Cosmic rays consist of 87% protons, 12% helium nuclei, and 1 to 2% heavier nuclei. These high-energy particles create complex DNA damage, including double-strand breaks. Double-strand breaks are dangerous because both DNA strands are severed. Repair mechanisms struggle to fix them correctly. Mistakes during repair cause mutations. If mutations occur in genes controlling cell growth, cancer can result. Published in NPJ Microgravity, May 10, 2017, and multiple NASA publications from 2024 to 2025. Even on Earth, at sea level, cosmic rays contribute to your mutation rate. The atmosphere shields most radiation, but muons penetrate. Every human on the planet carries mutations caused by cosmic rays. Some of those mutations occurred in germ cells and were passed to offspring. Evolution is partly driven by cosmic rays. The steady mutagenic pressure from space has been a factor in life's diversity. Researchers at Stanford proposed in Astrophysical Journal Letters, May 2020, that cosmic rays may explain biological chirality. All life on Earth uses right-handed sugars and left-handed amino acids. Why one-handedness and not the other? The Stanford team suggested magnetically polarized cosmic rays preferentially ionized one molecular handedness over the other. This created a slight difference in mutation rates between mirror-image proto-life forms. Over billions of years, the favored handedness dominated. Cosmic rays do not just damage DNA, they also drive evolution. Mutations are necessary. Without mutations, there is no variation. Without variation, there is no natural selection. Without natural selection, there is no evolution. Cosmic rays provide a constant source of mutations. Life evolved under this radiation. Life adapted to it. DNA repair mechanisms evolved to fix most damage. But some mutations persist. Those mutations are the raw material of evolution. You exist because cosmic rays mutated the DNA of your ancestors over 4 billion years. Every beneficial trait, every adaptation, every innovation in the history of life traces partly to cosmic ray-induced mutations. Right now, muons are passing through you. Some are hitting your DNA. Most damage will be repaired, some will not. Those unrepaired mutations could cause cancer in 50 years, or they could do nothing. Or if they occur in your reproductive cells, they could be passed to your children. This is life on a planet bathed in cosmic rays. Photons created in fusion reactions immediately collide with other particles. Each collision scatters the photon in a random direction. The photon travels a tiny distance, then collides again. This random walk is called a drunkard's walk. The photon zigzags through the sun's interior, bouncing trillions of times. The mean free path of a photon in the solar core is roughly 1 centimeter. It travels 1 centimeter, then hits something. The radius of the sun is roughly 700,000 kilometers. To travel from core to surface in a straight line would take 2.3 seconds at the speed of light. But the photon does not travel straight. It bounces randomly. The path length is vastly longer than the radius. Calculations show it takes between 10,000 and 170,000 years for a photon to diffuse from core to surface. The exact time depends on modeling assumptions about solar density and opacity. The most commonly cited figure is 170,000 years. This was calculated in multiple solar physics models from the 1980s through 2020s. The energy generated in the core today will not reach the surface for 170,000 years. The sunlight hitting your face right now left the core long before humans existed. Our species Homo sapiens emerged roughly 300,000 years ago. The photons warming you were created when early hominids roamed Africa. Once a photon reaches the sun's surface, it travels through space unimpeded. The distance from sun to Earth is roughly 150 million kilometers. Light takes 8 minutes 20 seconds to cross that distance, so the light you see left the sun's surface 8 minutes ago. But it was created in the core 170,000 years ago. This has implications. If the sun's fusion suddenly stopped, the surface would continue glowing for 170,000 years as stored energy diffused out. We on Earth would not know for 170,000 years and 8 minutes. The sun appears stable because it is a giant energy buffer. Changes in the core take eons to reach the surface. This stability is why life on Earth has thrived. Solar output has been remarkably constant for billions of years. The photon random walk process is well documented. Published solar physics literature from 1985 through 2025, including textbooks on stellar structure and multiple NASA educational resources, explains the process. Photons in the core start as high-energy gamma rays. Each collision transfers energy. The photon loses energy and shifts to longer wavelength. Gamma rays become X-rays. X-rays become ultraviolet. Ultraviolet becomes visible light. By the time a photon reaches the surface, it has downgraded through countless collisions. It emerges as visible light or infrared. The sun emits mostly visible light, peak wavelength around 500 nanometers green-yellow. Human eyes evolved to see wavelengths the sun emits most strongly. Not coincidence. Vision adapted to available light. The sun's energy output is 3.8 times 10 to the 26th watts. Every second, 620 million tons of hydrogen fuse into helium. 4 million tons of that mass converts to energy. That energy diffuses outward through random walk. Eventually it reaches you. When a photon strikes your skin, it excites electrons in molecules. And the electrons jump to higher energy states. When they fall back, they release the energy as heat. You feel warm. The energy in that warmth came from a fusion reaction 170,000 years ago. The photon traveled 10 to the 20 collisions, bouncing randomly through the sun, then 8 minutes through space, then struck your skin. That journey is why you are warm. This fact reframes how you see sunlight. Every ray of sun is ancient. The light illuminating your room is older than human civilization, older than agriculture, older than the last ice age. It was born in the nuclear furnace of the sun when Neanderthals and Denisovans still walked the earth. You are touching the past, literally. The energy warming your skin is 170,000 years old. The transistors inside your phone operate on quantum tunneling. A transistor is a switch. It controls electric current. Modern processors contain billions of transistors. Each transistor roughly 14 nanometers across in 24 chips. 7 nanometer and 5 nanometer processes exist now. At that scale, quantum effects dominate. Electrons do not flow like water. They behave as quantum particles. In a classical transistor, you apply voltage to the gate. The gate controls whether current flows between source and drain. When the gate voltage is high, current flows. When low current stops, the transistor is on or off, binary. But at 5 nanometers, the gate insulator is only a few atoms thick. Electrons can tunnel through it. Even when the gate is supposed to be off, electrons leak through. This is quantum tunneling. The electron's wave function extends beyond the physical barrier. There is a probability the electron appears on the other side. In classical physics, a ball cannot pass through a wall. In quantum mechanics, it can. The probability is tiny but non-zero. Across billions of transistors, switching billions of times per second tunneling current adds up. This is called gate leakage. It wastes power. Processors get hot. Engineers design around it. They use materials and geometries that minimize tunneling, but they cannot eliminate it. At small scales, tunneling is unavoidable. Published in semiconductor physics literature from 2020 to 2025, including Nature Materials, September 2024, and Physics World, December 17, 2025. Quantum tunneling is both a problem and a tool. Flash memory relies on tunneling. Your phone's storage uses floating gate transistors. Data is stored as charge on isolated gates. To write data, electrons must tunnel through an insulator onto the floating gate. To erase, data electrons tunnel back out. The insulator is thick enough that electrons stay trapped for years, but thin enough that applying voltage forces tunneling. This delicate balance lets your phone store photos even when powered off. Quantum tunneling enables your phone to exist. Semiconductors themselves depend on quantum mechanics. Silicon is a semiconductor. Its conductivity falls between conductors and insulators. Electrons in silicon occupy bands. The valence band is filled, the conduction band is empty. A band gap separates them. For electrons to conduct, they must jump the gap. In pure silicon at room temperature, few electrons have enough thermal energy to jump. So pure silicon barely conducts. But at impurities, doping introduces extra electrons or holes. N-type doping adds electrons. P-type doping adds holes. P-N junctions form where N and P meet. At the junction, a depletion region forms. Electrons and holes recombine, leaving a charged boundary. Applying voltage changes the depletion width. This controls current. Every diode, every transistor depends on P-N junctions. This behavior is purely quantum. Classical physics cannot explain how semiconductors work. Electrons must obey the Pauli exclusion principle. They must occupy discrete energy states. They must tunnel through barriers. Without quantum mechanics, semiconductors do not function. Your phone would not exist. Neither would computers, nor the internet, nor LEDs, nor solar panels. The entire digital age rests on quantum mechanics. Published in Caltech Science Exchange, explaining quantum technology in everyday life, and National Quantum Initiative, explaining how GPS lasers, LEDs, and semiconductors operate on quantum principles, updated February 7, 2025. Every pixel on your screen emits light through quantum processes. LEDs are light-emitting diodes. Electrons in the semiconductor recombine with holes. When they recombine, they drop to lower energy states. The energy releases as photons. The photon's wavelength depends on the band gap. Different semiconductors emit different colors. Red LEDs use one material. Blue LEDs use another. White LEDs combine multiple colors. This is quantum electrodynamics. Electrons transition between quantized energy levels. Photons emerge. The light you see reading this is quantum emission. The screen's backlight is LEDs. Each LED is billions of quantum transitions per second. Classical physics predicts continuous energy levels. Quantum mechanics reveals discrete jumps. Only quantum theory explains why LEDs emit specific colors. Published in Geeks for Geeks, July 23, 2025, and multiple quantum mechanics educational resources. Your phone's GPS relies on atomic clocks. GPS satellites carry atomic clocks accurate to within 1 second in 100 million years. Timekeeping is based on microwave frequency, required to move electrons between quantum states in cesium or rubidium atoms. The electron transitions are precise. The same transition always requires the same frequency. 9,192,631,770 Hz for cesium-133. That defines the second. 1 second is 9,192,631,770 cycles of cesium-133 radiation. GPS uses this to synchronize satellite clocks. Satellites transmit time-stamped signals. Your phone receives signals from multiple satellites. Time differences tell distances. Triangulating distances gives your position. Accuracy requires clocks within nanoseconds. Quantum mechanics provides that precision. Classical clocks cannot match it. Published in Caltech Science Exchange and World Quantum Day resources from National Quantum Initiative, updated February 7, 2025. Quantum effects in your phone happen right now. Every calculation, every bit of storage, every photon on the screen, every GPS fix, all quantum. Your phone is a handheld quantum machine. It operates on principles Einstein called spooky, principles that seem to violate common sense. Electrons tunnel through walls. Light emits in quantized packets. Atoms keep time within human precision. You take it for granted. You swipe and tap and scroll. Beneath the glass, billions of quantum events occur per second. Your phone is proof quantum mechanics is real. It is not abstract theory. It is not confined to labs. It is here in your hand, performing miracles 300 times per second. Documented in whole body counters since 1949. Quantum tunneling, discovered by Gamow, 1928, allows sun to fuse hydrogen at 15 million Kelvin with 1 in 10 to the 28th probability per collision calculated in solar physics for decades. Cellular and atomic turnover tracked with carbon-14 from nuclear tests in 1950s shows most cells replace in days to years, documented by Jonas Friesen at the Karolinska Institute, 2005. Electron probability clouds not empty space fill atoms, proven by quantum mechanics since 1920s and explained in physics forums in university physics, Q and A, from 2017 to 2025. Cosmic ray muons passing through you at 1 per square centimeter per minute cause DNA mutations linked to evolution, documented in PMC January 1920-23 in MIT. Technology Review, August 22, 2024. Photons from Sun's core take 170,000 years to reach surface through random walk, then 8 minutes to Earth, calculated in solar physics models since 1980s. Transistors in your phone operate on quantum tunneling through 5 nanometer gates enabling semiconductors. LEDs, GPS atomic clocks. Documented in Nature Materials, September 2024, Physics World. December 17, 2025, Caltech Science Exchange and National Quantum Initiative, February 7, 2025. Peter Moore and David Aushalom's team used yellow fluorescent proteins with quantum properties similar to nitrogen vacancy centers in diamond. These proteins have metastable triplet states. A near-infrared laser pulse reads out the triplet spin state with 20% spin contrast. Quantum sensors inside living cells. In November 2024, scientists at MIT and University of Munster unified 2 distinct descriptions of atomic nuclei for the first time. This reconciles shell model and collective model approaches used in nuclear physics for 7 decades. Published December 12, 2024 in Physics World. In May 2022, Stanford physicists proposed cosmic rays, shaped biological handedness through magnetically polarized radiation, creating different mutation rates between mirror molecules over billions of generations. In December 2025, Quantum Magazine reported dark energy measurements from DESI Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument suggest dark energy has been weakening over time based on map of 15 million galaxies. This follows earlier 2024 results. If confirmed, this rewrites cosmology. Dark energy makes up 70% of universe energy density. Changes in dark energy affect a universe's fate. In 1620-41, Otto von Guericke, mayor of Magdeburg, demonstrated vacuum is possible, contradicting Aristotle's 2,000-year-old claim, nature abhors vacuum. Von Guericke put 2 hemispheres together, pumped out air, and not even horses could pull them apart. This opened door to studying quantum vacuum. Today, we know vacuum is not empty. Quantum fields permeate all space. Virtual particles flash in and out. Vacuum has energy measured experimentally through Casimir effect. 2 metal plates in vacuum attract, because vacuum between plates has less energy than vacuum outside. Difference in vacuum energy creates force, measured in 1997 to match quantum predictions. In 1921, Otto Stern and Walter Gerlach passed silver atoms through inhomogeneous magnetic field. Atoms deflected into 2 discrete spots. This proved space quantization. Electron spin is quantized. Orientation is either up or down, not continuous. This experiment confirmed quantum mechanics predictions. Classical physics predicted continuous distribution. Quantum mechanics won. Stern received Nobel Prize 1943. In March 2025, DESI collaboration released updated cosmological map, showing more evidence dark energy varies over time. Statistical significance increased. In 2013, scientists confirmed Higgs boson at Large Hadron Collider. Higgs field gives particles mass. Field permeates all space. Particles interacting with field gain inertia. Without Higgs, field electrons would be massless. Atoms could not form. You would not exist. Higgs' discovery completed standard model of particle physics. Francois Englert and Peter Higgs received Nobel Prize 2013. These are the atomic facts hiding in your everyday life. You float above your chair. You emit 4,000 radioactive decays per second. The sun shines through quantum impossibility. Your atoms replace constantly. Space is not empty. Cosmic rays mutate your DNA right now. Sunlight touching you is 170,000 years old. Your phone operates on quantum tunneling. Every fact is documented. Every number has a source. Physics World, December 17/20/25. Quantum Magazine, December 17/20/25. Nature Materials, September 2024. PMC publications from 2017 to 2025. NASA resources on cosmic rays and DNA damage. University research from Karolinska Institute, Chicago, Nottingham, Stanford, MIT. Atomic clock standards from cesium transitions. Solar physics models from 1980s to 2020s. Quantum mechanics from Bohr, 1913 to Heisenberg, 1927, to modern textbooks. You live in a quantum universe. The classical world you think you see is an illusion. Beneath the surface, atoms tunnel. Particles wave, fields fluctuate, probabilities collapse. This is reality. This is your life at the atomic scale. And you will see these facts playing out every moment you exist.